Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I don't know about you, but when I watched everything unfold, I couldn't help shaking my head. I've seen plenty of people in Port Charles think they could stay one step ahead of the truth, but sooner or later, the truth always catches up. That's just the way life works. You can cover your tracks for a while, but when too many people start putting the pieces together, the game changes in a hurry. And from where I'm sitting, that's exactly what's happening to Cassius. What really caught my attention wasn't just one shocking moment. It was watching his entire world slowly come apart, one crack at a time. First, Anna managed to convince Felicia that the man everyone believed was Nathan is actually Cassius. That alone is enough to make anyone's stomach drop. Then Sidwell decided to throw even more fuel on the fire by exposing Cassius to Ezra and Detective Joe. I'll tell you, when someone like Sidwell starts talking, that's never good news for the person standing on the other side of the table. The way I see it, Cassius has reached that dangerous point where every decision feels like the wrong one. He keeps following Sidwell's orders because he probably believes that's the only road left open to him. But every move he makes seems to dig the hole a little deeper. I've lived long enough to know that desperation rarely leads people towards smart choices. More often than not, it pushes them into making mistakes they can never take back. What makes this story so fascinating is that the lies aren't falling apart because of one big mistake. They're collapsing because too many people now hold different pieces of the same puzzle. Anna has one piece. Felicia has another. Sidwell knows far more than he's willing to keep quiet about. Before long, Mac will be back, and if there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that Mac doesn't let questions go unanswered for very long. Once he and Felicia start comparing notes, I have a feeling they'll come looking for proof that Nathan has been Cassius all along. Now, here's the part that really has me thinking. I honestly don't believe Mac and Felicia are Cassius's biggest problem anymore. No, sir. Sidwell is the real storm rolling over the horizon. That man has never struck me as someone who values loyalty above his own interests. If talking benefits him, he'll talk. If exposing someone helps his own plans, he'll do it without losing a minute of sleep. Folks always say, loose lips sink ships, and right now, Sidwell's mouth may be the biggest danger Cassius has ever faced. As I watched everything unfold, I couldn't shake the feeling that Cassius is running out of places to hide. The disguise, the secrets, the careful planning, it all worked for a while. But every lie has an expiration date, and this one feels like it's about to expire in spectacular fashion. The saddest part is that I don't even think Cassius realizes just how close the walls are closing in around him. Then I started thinking about what comes next. And that's where this story becomes far more than another identity secret. Cassius isn't just fighting to stay hidden anymore. He's about to face a choice that could define who he really is. Does he keep carrying out Sidwell and Cullum's dangerous plans until the bitter end, or does he finally protect the people he's grown to care about while living as his brother? That's the kind of crossroads that changes a person forever, and I have a feeling we're only beginning to see how painful that decision is going to be. The more I watched Felicia wrestle with Anna's story, the more I appreciated how this whole situation was written. Too often, people on television hear one shocking revelation and accept it without asking a single question. That wasn't Felicia, and honestly, I'm glad it wasn't. If someone walked into my house and told me that a man I'd known for years wasn't who he claimed to be, I'd probably react the same way. I'd ask questions, I'd look for holes in the story, I'd want proof that couldn't be ignored. That's exactly what Felicia did, and I think it made every minute of this storyline feel much more authentic. Anna laid everything on the table. She explained how her escape led her to one of Faison's hidden houses near the Swiss border, a place filled with secrets that had been buried for years. While searching for evidence that Faison had survived, she came across an old letter from Madeline addressed to him. At first glance, it might have looked like just another forgotten piece of paper, but sometimes an old letter can be more dangerous than a loaded weapon. Inside were references to Liesel's two sons, a detail that suddenly made years of unanswered questions seem connected. Even after reading that letter herself, Felicia still wasn't convinced. And I'll tell you, I respected that. She wasn't being stubborn just for the sake of arguing. She was protecting everything she believed to be true. Nathan had been part of their lives. He had shared memories, friendships, and family moments. Those kinds of bonds don't disappear because of one document, no matter how convincing it seems. You don't erase years of trust in 5 minutes. That's simply not how the human heart works. What fascinated me the most was watching Felicia's expression slowly change as the conversation continued. You could almost see her mind traveling backward through every strange encounter she had with Nathan. It wasn't one dramatic flash of inspiration. It was memory after memory quietly lining up until they all pointed toward the same answer. Looking back, the little things suddenly didn't seem so little anymore. Then she remembered his relationship with Lulu, and something shifted inside her. It wasn't just that he had behaved differently. It was the feeling that something had always been slightly off, something she couldn't explain until now. Haven't we all had moments like that? You look back on a situation that once confused you, and suddenly everything makes perfect sense. That's exactly how this felt to me. Once Felicia connected that final piece, the entire illusion came crashing down. The moment she realized the truth, there wasn't any hesitation. She immediately turned her attention to Mac, because at that point, this wasn't simply about exposing an imposter anymore. James was part of the equation, and that changed everything. As soon as a child enters the picture, every decision carries more weight. Every minute becomes precious. I could feel the urgency growing because Mac and Felicia weren't chasing answers out of curiosity anymore. They were trying to protect someone they loved before it was too late. From my point of view, that's what makes this storyline much stronger than a typical secret identity plot. The emotional stakes are becoming just as important as the mystery itself. We're no longer asking whether Cassius will be exposed. Instead, we're asking who could get hurt before that exposure finally happens. But just when I thought Cassius couldn't possibly find himself in a worse position, Sidwell reminded everyone exactly what kind of man he really is. I never trusted Sidwell for a second, and after watching these scenes, I feel even more justified. People like him don't believe in loyalty, they believe in survival. As long as someone is useful, they'll stand beside them. The moment that usefulness disappears, they'll throw them overboard without losing a wink of sleep. That's exactly what happened here. Cassius believed he was carrying out another dangerous assignment for Cullum. After receiving information from Laura and Jordan about Sidwell's location, Nathan helped direct the PCPD toward the hideout. Detective Joe moved in to investigate, and Cassius followed while still wearing Nathan's identity. On the surface, everything looked like another carefully planned operation. Underneath, however, the entire plan was already beginning to collapse. Cullum's instructions were simple enough: eliminate Sidwell before he could become a problem. But plans like that almost never stay simple in Port Charles. The second Joe and Nathan entered that house and found Sidwell with Ezra, the entire situation changed in an instant. Instead of begging for mercy or trying to negotiate, Sidwell did something even more dangerous. He exposed Cassius completely. I actually found that moment more powerful than any gunfight could have been. Sidwell didn't need violence to destroy Cassius. He used the truth as his weapon. Right there in front of Detective Joe and Ezra, he revealed that the man everyone believed was Nathan was actually Cassius. Years of deception were suddenly hanging in the open for everyone to examine. Folks, that's not one crack in the foundation. That's the entire house beginning to collapse. At this point, I honestly don't think Cassius's greatest challenge is staying hidden anymore. That battle is already slipping away from him. The real question now is what kind of man he chooses to become before this story reaches its end. Will he continue following Sidwell and Cullum until everything burns to the ground? Or will he finally risk everything to protect the people who have unknowingly accepted him as family? That's the decision I'm waiting to see. Because sometimes a person's final choice tells us far more than all the lies they told along the way.